So when I look back at some of the sales side deals that we've done to date, I think I would sum it up. There's a couple of key points. So I think firstly, you need a champion in that business. You need someone who can walk the journey with you, because it is going to be tough. In any of those organizations, you have existing technology and existing relationships with middle management and their vendors. And that's what you have to unseat, and it's a difficult process. So you need a champion in that business that will trust you and that you can trust to do this journey with. Then you have to create the excitement about the potential. You have to create a fear of missing out almost, that shows that why would it be worth taking this journey, because it is difficult. With the moment you disrupt any technology, there are challenges in that. And I think one of the keys to that is that champion and the people around the champion must understand that what is the outcome? It's going to make them famous. It's going to make them valuable to their organization. They will stand out at the end as the stakeholders that brought this great solution to your customer. So through that process, you must protect, obviously, that stakeholder and that champion that you've got, and help them build the excitement. Typically what I've found is that you're going to get stuck in middle management. So the sooner we can get the message to Exco level and C-suite, the better. In reality, C-suite will typically be open to listen to this, whereas engineering in the customer will not be open, because they've got it. They've been doing it for the last 20 years. They know it all. So you have to find a way that your champion can get to the C-suite, be that the COO, the CEO, or the Chief Digital Officer or Chief Innovation Officer, but you have to get the message to C-suite. If we cannot do that, you're going to get stuck in the process, and it will typically not work, purely because it's such a high-touch type of product. So I would say it's all about finding that audience of stakeholders in the customer that gives you access to C-suite, and then building that momentum and the excitement and the fear of missing out in terms of that. Because let's face it, what we bring will fundamentally change how they operate sales sites. It does, it really does, and it creates incredible value for the customer. And if we're able to articulate that well to the right audience, it will filter down. Then the door opens for the rest of the conversation. So that's almost like the first area I would focus on in terms of building these deals. The second one, which we've mentioned already, is persistence. You have to stay at it. You have to solve the right types of problems during the process. You have to understand that it typically takes time. We're going to get lucky here and there, and it happens quicker, but typically it's going to take a fair amount of time. To that end, we must build better collateral and get the message quicker, that we do compress that early stage. The next element that I think is important, and I've always said that in our business, it is ultimately a technology sell. Whoever speaks to the customer must be competent in terms of how the technology works. We have never had successful salespeople on IOT.NXT that haven't immersed themselves in the technology. So take the time and really understand what it is. Not just the key selling points, but understand the underlying technology. Because you're going to be faced with an audience, typically that's very knowledgeable and would need to understand how it's going to fit in. And then you bring in the overall value of IOT.NXT. You bring in the value of things like interoperability. So let's not forget the core values of what the IOT.NXT platform brings, irrespective of sales sites. It brings massive interoperability, which is in every single sales site you're going to walk into, you're going to have disparate technology. So that interoperability is key. Then the ability to quite quickly and rapidly bring in disparate types of technology. That retrofit ability to be able to go plug it in and it will work with whatever controllers, whatever equipment, passive or active is on site. So understand those things. There's a core sell and a core value to IOT.NXT that differentiates us globally. That's why we are on Gartner and McNation and those kind of reports, is because of those core values. So that has to be part and baked into your conversations, but not rambled down as a list of unique differentiators. It has to be weaved into the conversation that the customer understands. He's getting a single view, but rapidly bringing on different technologies on a retrofit basis, making it completely interoperable, and then time to market really quick and time to value. The second pillar, I believe, is bringing in the fundamentals of the IOT.NXT value proposition. On top of that, relationship building, And now you've set the stage, I believe, in terms of building a deal end to end. So in terms of dealing with your typical middle management, and it's typically experienced engineers that would not be excited about new technology disrupting what they've done for the past 10 years. It's like a pothole in the road, try and avoid it. In my experience, we've seldom, if ever, convinced the middle management blockers that this is a great idea. So that's again why your champion has to have access or the ear of the correct ExCo members and C-suite, so that it flows top down and opens the doors for those conversations. And then typically try and avoid those blockers and potholes. My advice would be to unless it becomes a complete showstopper, is not even engage that, to not even try and debunk it, because you are typically dealing with engineers that's been in that business for 10, 15, 20 years even. And they do carry a lot of weight at their level. But this is a strategic play. This is not doing it the way that we've always done it. This is coming in and turning the entire way of remotely managing and optimizing a cell site on its head. It has to be a strategic conversation. You have to get C-suite involved to see the vision and the value and all of that. So typically try and avoid your naysayers and don't engage that. So I think salespeople should avoid a couple of key pitfalls. The one would be, if you don't know what the answer is, don't try and answer it, because the audience that we're dealing with are typically super well qualified people, and they typically load their questions. So if they ask something about a specific piece of network equipment, it is typically asked for a reason. They know the answer. I've seen it too often that due to pride or due to a sense that I have to just answer, salespeople answer that. If you don't know, tell them, I don't know, but I've got really clever people that I can ask. So that would be the first thing. My personal style is not necessarily your personal style. So everybody sells in a different way. I believe that this kind of sale, which is a complex solution that you have to build trust over time and that you build through a complex ecosystem of moving parts, is not a flashy sale. I think that for me, typically I would avoid too arrogant approach to it, a too bullish approach to it. I think it has to be a facilitation process. You're facilitating this customer to buy something rather than selling them something. That is a fundamental of sales in my opinion anyway, but in this environment it's even more topical because you're typically dealing with technicians and engineers and IT experts, and they don't like being sold to. So it's a process. You as a salesman, you facilitate, ask the right questions at the right time, provide the correct context and information at the right time. I don't think this is a hard sell. I've never seen this kind of deal be done with a hard bullish sell. I think it has to be humble, I think it has to be knowledgeable, it has to be done on trust, and it has to be done with knowledge. Typically you must be best prepared when you walk into a call, that you know exactly what you're talking about, and when you get stuck you acknowledge it and you revert back with the right information. So that would be my advice for dealing with these kind of customers. First step in terms of value-based selling is to understand what is value to the person you're speaking to.